Conference Championship Week. We are live. We are back. This is Championship Rings. Brandon Lewis, host of Brandon's World, back with you at about 50% today. Admittedly, I'm not 100%, but I needed to be here today because my Philadelphia Eagles are in the NFC Championship game for the second time in 3 years, and I am alongside Ungar to the Max, the host of the Sports Room Talk Show. Josh, it's Championship Sunday in the NFL.
Yes, it is. And I saw on the rundown that we were supposed to start with Lamar Jackson. No, I am hijacking this.
You are, okay.
Because you brought up your Philadelphia Eagles, and that's where I actually want to start. Because they're taking on the Washington Commanders this coming Sunday in the NFC Championship, just as we all predicted.
Well, I know I wasn't here last week, but I gave the Commanders a shot at an upset. I'm just going to put that out there.
Okay, but the reason I'm wanting to start with this topic actually is not specifically to preview the matchup, but it's just the idea that I've been hearing constantly from all of these talk show hosts and whatnot, which is, can the Eagles not just win this game on Sunday, but win a Super Bowl if Jalen Hurts is not able to make the necessary throws, like play the quarterback position?
Oh, I'm not worried about that at all. I'm more worried about Jalen Hurts' mobility because of his knee. I think Jalen Hurts did not play well against the Rams. I'll be the first one to admit it. I thought he played better against Green Bay than everybody in the public had thought he did. I actually thought he made some key throws in that game. And, I look at the way Jalen Hurts is playing, and I don't know why everybody isn't seeing the same thing I'm seeing. Again, I did not think he had a spectacular game on Sunday. Some of that had to do with the immobility in the fourth quarter. But I look at Jalen Hurts, and I look at what Buffalo is doing with Josh Allen. I am literally seeing the exact same player, where Josh Allen is not leading Buffalo. It is the run game. It is him with his legs. It is not him with his arm. Jalen Hurts is leading the Eagles with his run game along with Saquon Barkley and that run game. It is the same formula. Run game, create turnovers on defense, and don't turn the football over offensively.
So with that being said, why do you think Jalen Hurts is getting so much more criticism? Because I feel like I don't hear that same type of criticism when it comes.
Exactly my point. I don't know the reason for that. I think it's because maybe at the end of last year, people were sort of out. They were down on Jalen Hurts. And maybe at the start of this year, like you had kept saying, when is the real Jalen Hurts going to wake up? When are we going to see that 2022 Jalen Hurts? And I've been telling you, since the bye weeks after week 4 when they lost to Tampa down there, Jalen Hurts has only turned the ball over 3 times.
Yeah, but what? I don't get it with this passing game. I don't know if he just doesn't always trust his arm, if he's trying to be too conservative.
I think part of it is he, going back to training camp. I don't know if you remember me telling you this. I might have reiterated this a couple weeks ago, but in training camp, he only had 1 interception, and it was on one of his last pads of training camp. So one of the things that Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore really did with him this offseason is, hey, let's limit the turnovers. And I think ever since the bye week, you're sort of seeing Jalen Hurts play risk averse. Now, again, he did not play that well on Sunday, but he also, should have had a touchdown pass to A.J. Brown that A.J. Brown dropped the 1-yard line. So, to me, the yard...
You mean the same A.J. Brown that was on the sidelines reading a book?
Which I absolutely love, by the way, because it fits this team perfectly, because nobody gets this team. This team has been touted all year long for whatever reason. As you said, everybody is looking for a way to say the Eagles cannot win the Super Bowl, and I think that they are embracing that mentality.
Which, let me just clarify something. I'm not saying they shouldn't be one of the Super Bowl favorites. based on the 4 remaining teams. That's not what I'm trying to say. But by the same token, like, I get it. Teams know that Philly's going to run the ball at least 30 times, it seems like.
If teams know that, they can't stop it.
That's
look at the Rams.
That's exactly where I was going with that. Like,
the Rams started doing a little bit better job on the Eagles in the second half. And I think one of the biggest misnomers about this game against Washington is, everybody wants to talk about how Washington beat Philadelphia in week 16 in Washington. And while that is true, I think people are forgetting Philadelphia was up 21-7 in that game, and they were rolling early until Jalen Hurts went out with the concussion. Once Kenny Pickett proved he cannot throw the football, that's when Washington literally sent 11 people at the ball. If Jalen Hurts will be mobile enough to move, Washington is not going to be able to load the box against Saquon Barkley because the running threat of Jalen Hurts is there. So while it's true that, yes, Washington did have some success against Philadelphia this year, I think people are forgetting, or maybe a lot of people did not watch that game because it was in the 1 o'clock window that week, of how that really happened. They needed 22 points just in the fourth quarter to win that game.
Sure. But at the same time, it's like Washington should still have confidence coming into this game because they did come back and beat the Eagles. Granted, it was against the essentially backups for the Eagles. I get it. But still, Washington has shown that they can hang with the Eagles. It's not this is not a
also be by far the best defense they have faced in the postseason. The Lions' defense was showing themselves. The Lions' pass rush could not get after Jaden Daniels. To me, that was the biggest difference in the game. It's one of the reasons why I said, without a doubt, Washington was going to hang in there with Detroit till the end. I thought the Lions were going to win the game because I thought, their offense would be one more play better. I thought it was going to be like a 43-36 shootout. But at the end of the day, Washington's defensive line got after Detroit, and Detroit's offensive line, which was their strength, turned into a weakness on Saturday. I told you all along that when we talked about Philadelphia and Detroit, the two areas I gave Philadelphia an advantage of was offensive line, defensive line, and receivers up front. I think all that is an upgrade, and I think the fact that they're going to be in the Wink NFC Championship game with 60 minutes to go to the Super Bowl, it's all advantage Eagles in this one.
Yes, I hear you. But again, Washington has a history, even before Jaden Daniels got there, which I understand this is his rookie season. But still, Washington has shown that they can go into Philadelphia and beat the Eagles. They're not afraid of the environment in Philly. They're
not afraid of the environment, but I think an NFC championship game is different than a regular season game.
It most certainly is. I'm not trying to discredit that. But I want to get to Jaden Daniels for a minute. Because Jaden, I don't think we've ever seen a rookie season like this.
Close.
Like, we were talking about how amazing CJ Stroud's rookie season was last year.
That's a good season compared to this season.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying, like, for comparison's sake, I get that Jaden has played better overall, but still, like, that was the last year with CJ was the last time we were having this type of discussion, at least to a certain extent, about a rookie quarterback.
Hey Josh, you know who preseason was one of the only people in the country to pick the Commanders to make the playoffs?
You did. I remember that.
And so this is one of the reasons why. Now, did I think they were going to make the NFC Championship game? No. If you remember my first round playoff matchup, though, in the wild card round, my initial NFL predictions was Commanders at Eagles.
Yeah, you did have that. Um, which I think the Commanders got a bit lucky with their draw going against Tampa Bay. That was a more favorable.
The weirdest thing is you can make an argument Tampa Bay was a harder matchup for them than Detroit. I like Washington's matchup against Detroit.
Yeah, I did too.
I mean, the funny thing is, right? You can make the argument. I know you and Jalen talked about this last week, and by the way, thank you, Jalen, for filling in for me. I appreciate it. If Baker Mayfield does not drop that ball on that trick play, or if the backup defensive tackle for Tampa brings down Gene Daniels on that third down play near the goal line where they got the first down, they were able to run the clock out and then kick the game-winning field goal. I think there's a chance Tampa's going to Philly last week and the Rams are going to Detroit.
Yeah, which I'm just going back to the Rams for a minute. I would have, if it hadn't started snowing, I think the Rams might have actually won that game in Philly.
Man, I don't know about that. I think that the weather actually played into Philly's advantage.
That's what I'm saying. If the weather,
late in the game, it turned into the Rams' advantage because Collinsworth on the broadcast kept saying the Rams finally decided to go no huddle. Well, maybe they're not trailing, or maybe if the weather isn't bad, maybe they don't go to no huddle at that point.
maybe. But speaking of Collinsworth, I'd love to see him go and have NBC pair Mike Tirico with Matt Ryan. I think that would be a great pairing.
Huh? Matt Ryan, where did that come from?
I'll tell you where. Because I love the pairing of Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady.
You what? Wait. You love the pairing of Burkhardt and Brady? Where'd that come from?
And then I enjoyed the pairing of Nance and Romo. So you got those two. Why not have NBC follow the trend? Pair Mike Tirico with Matt Ryan.
I mean, Matt Ryan was on the fourth. Excuse me, Matt Ryan was on the fourth crew last year with Andrew Cano and Tiki Barber, and he wasn't very good at it. There's a reason why they moved into the studio.
That's just my opinion, but whatever. But anyway, getting back to the actual game, that was just a side quest. It's going to be interesting to see how Philly's defensive line tries to contain Jaden Daniels.
Well, how about this? You had gave me crap for the last 2 years about me dissing Aaron Donald. Jalen Carter is already better than Aaron Donald.
Oh, come on.
Josh, he's unblockable.
Aaron Donald in his prime was unblockable.
Josh, this kid's just as unstoppable. And he's in year 2. They can't block him. I mean, if he is singled one-on-one, he wins every single time. He saved the game on Sunday because I don't know if you saw the all-22 film of it. Stafford had Tyler Higbee open on a whip route where it sort of went back, and then he whipped inside. Darius Slay slipped. If Jalen Carter does not bring down Matthew Stafford, Tyler Higbee probably catches the ball and scores on that 3rd and goal.
I did not see that. Cam, so I'll have to.
Josh, if he, I think they said it on the broadcast. He had like 12 double teams or triple teams. He didn't get a pressure. He had like 8 solo one-on-one reps and got pressure every single time.
Okay, but
he is the key to the game.
But here's the thing, though. Matthew Stafford is a stationary quarterback.
Okay, well, you know what? In the game at Washington, Jalen Carter got a couple sacks on Daniels, and he forced a fumble early in the game.
Okay, that's fair.
And by the way, they're going up against the Commanders' backup right guard because Kazi's going to be out for Washington because he got hurt against Detroit.
Yeah, so I'll give you that. That's an advantage. But still, that's one of the key matchups is Philly's defensive line against the mobility of Jaden Daniels.
And I'll tell you another guy no one talks about. Number 93 for the Philadelphia Eagles, Milton Williams. He's our third defensive tackle, but he plays third downs and passing downs with Jordan Davis is obviously more of a run stopper. That guy is getting better by the week, and he gets out of the quarterback, and no one talks about him in the national media.
Okay, here's my other key matchup for this game. If it's Darius Slay against Terry McLaurin,
I'm going to stop you right there because I'm assuming, and I have heard that he will play. I don't think it's going to be Slay against McLaurin.
okay,
I believe they're going to put Mitchell on McLaurin like they did in the game in Washington.
okay, which would mean Darius Slay goes against, I'm trying to remember.
It would be Brown or Zacchaeus, whoever they throw on that other side.
Okay, so if it is Mitchell going against McLaurin, that's also a key matchup because we've seen that outside of Zach Ertz, which Ertz seems to be, Jaden Daniels like security blanket. But if McLaurin has one-on-one, Jaden Daniels is going to him.
So McLaurin burned Mitchell in the game in Washington. I don't know, out and up and go. Mitchell kind of slipped. It was one of the rare times he got burned this year. I think they're going to try it early in the year. I think Mitchell will be up to the task. I think he'll be ready for McLaurin.
Do you think that? So let me ask you this: do you think there's a chance, Philly, if McLaurin gets going early? Do you think there's a chance Philly rolls a double team his way?
No, because they don't do that much defensively. They're going to trust their corners. Burks filling in for Jacoby Dean at linebacker did a good job on Sunday. I suspect they bring him over more on some blitzes to create some pressure on Jaden Daniels. At the end of the day, I think it all comes down to I think Philly has to get off to a fast start. And I think if they get off to an early lead, they force Washington to throw the football, that's going to be the key to victory. I do think my Eagles win. I think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to say like 30-23. I think we win by a touchdown.
Okay. I'm going to say it's a little bit lower scoring than that. But I do agree with you on Philly. I think Washington's just a little too inexperienced. I'll say Philly wins 28-24.
All right. Well, where do you want to go to next?
Up to you.
All right. Well, let's talk Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay.
Oh boy.
With this, I understand why everybody's wants to point the finger at Lamar Jackson. Jalen and I talked a whole segment just about the impact of this game for obvious reasons, because one of these two is winning MVP this season. My guess at this point is that it's going to be Lamar Jackson. And think about this for a second. Lamar Jackson could be a 3-time league MVP back-to-back years, and he's never been to the Super Bowl, let alone won one.
Yeah, but the regular season is an MVP award, in fairness.
Okay, but still, you're an MVP and you haven't gotten to the Super Bowl once.
Well, it's also because because Patrick Mahomes doesn't have the stats to win the MVP, just like Jalen Hurts wouldn't have the stats to win the MVP. But guess who has guess who has won the most games since 2021? Number one is actually Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. Number two is Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. I mean, Mahomes makes sense. They're the back-to-back. They're the back-to-back defending Super Bowl champions for a reason. Please, Buffalo, go into the evil empire and beat them on Sunday. Nobody.
We'll preview that after this topic. I don't think they have a chance. I'm just until they do it. They very well could do it. Until they do it, I'm not picking them. Well,
okay. But anyway, getting back to this, like I said, I understand why everybody wants to point the finger at Lamar, but in this case, no, I'm not going to blame him. Mark Andrews. First of all, I didn't think it was when they lined up to go for the 2-point conversion. I was saying, this is why you brought Derrick Henry to Baltimore. Just give him the ball and you run it.
Which they didn't do the whole game. For the second straight year, they went away from what they did all year in a big playoff game.
It's like when they get in the playoffs, they change their identity, and it makes no sense. But, like, Mark Andrews is one of the most sure-handed tight ends in the game right now, I would say. And for him to not just drop that ball on a 2-point conversion, but also the fumble. Like, Baltimore was rolling offensively at that point. That there were points on the board.
Baltimore played an incredible second half. They outplayed Buffalo in the second half after falling behind. What was it, 21-7, 21-10?
Yeah, 21-10. And when he fumbled it, like, first of all, it was an obvious fumble. Not that anybody is like challenging it, but I'm just saying. But like I said, Baltimore was rolling offensively. That was a key moment in the game, I would say. So if anyone's most to blame, it's Mark Andrews.
Yeah, most to blame. I think you got to put the majority of the blame on Andrews, but I don't think it's fair to say he's the sole reason why. I think that for the Ravens, you have to put a blame on a lot of people. I think, obviously, like I said, about 30 to 40%. I would say probably about 40% probably goes to Andrews. I would put about 30% on Lamar Jackson himself because of the first half. Because after they had that incredible opening drive and they went up 7-0, Lamar did throw the interception. He did turn the football over on that fumble. You just can't do that in a playoff game in that spot. So Lamar does deserve a lot of the blame for that.
I agree. I'm not saying Lamar should be absolved of blame. That's not what I was trying to get at.
I would put probably about 10% on Todd Monken. And the reason why I only say 10% is because he is the coordinator. I would put a little bit more blame, probably 20% of the blame on John Harbaugh. This is the head coach. Like, how do you allow this to happen? And John Harbaugh is a great head coach. He's a top 5 NFL head coach, he's a Super Bowl champion, all of that. I understand it. But this Ravens team, for whatever reason, any given Sunday, it doesn't matter if it's the regular season or it's the AFC Championship game, they can come out and they can beat anybody. Yet, by like the first quarter, are we going to have a Ravens game where it's going to be 40-7, or are we going to have a 23-20 nail biter? It's like sometimes they don't come out ready to play.
Yeah, we saw that against the Browns in Cleveland this season. I thought Baltimore would smash the Browns, and no, that didn't happen.
And again, like, it's hard for the Ravens now, to be honest with you. I know they were favored in Buffalo. I did not think they should have been. I know they stomped the Bills 35-10 week 4 in Baltimore. I thought both teams had changed significantly since that moment. I thought Buffalo at home, I actually thought the line should have been flipped, and I did like Buffalo to go win that game. So I got to give Baltimore some credit for battling back into the game. But at the end of the day, I'll be honest with you, like, I didn't think the Ravens really deserved to win the game. I thought the Bills deserved to win the game.
Okay, I hear you on that. But talking about those turnovers, which you mentioned, Buffalo scored, I believe it was 10 points off those turnovers.
Yeah.
Like, as you get deeper into the playoffs, you gotta control the ball. Security is so important.
Well, that's going to be the key for them to defeating Kansas City. They cannot have one turnover because Kansas City does not turn the football over. If they turn the football over one time, they will lose.
You're saying if Buffalo loses or turns the ball over one time, then
they will lose. Because you realize Kansas City has now gone 8 straight games without turning the football over one time.
The
They
Chiefs.
don't beat themselves. And by the way, Texans fans, I'm sorry. The calls were BS, but they did not decide the game. I don't want to hear that the referees decided the game because they did not. You lost. The Chiefs won. Deal with it. They're 15-2. They really are technically 15-1 because they didn't even play Week 18 to me. Um, I mean, the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and until someone goes in there and beats them, now I think there's a certain team in the NFC that's capable of doing it because I think that my
I
team
don't.
will be more motivated to do so, and I think we're going to get our chance from 2 years ago that I've been waiting for 2 years. But
Nobody wants to see that Super Bowl again. I know.
why?
I
I'm
think
not. I'm not. I'm not saying. I get why nobody wants to see Kansas City in the Super Bowl. I understand what you're saying, but you act like if it's Kansas City, Philadelphia, it's gonna be the worst Super Bowl in the world.
we just saw it 2 years ago. I
But who cares? Yeah, what, Josh? What did I just get done telling you? These are the two teams with the two best, with the two most wins in the NFL over the last 4 years.
I understand that, but I you look at it, I don't know anybody who wants that Super Bowl outside of Chiefs fans and Eagles fans. I
Well, listen, for the record, as long as we win, I have no preference. It was like the Vikings Rams game. I didn't really care who we played. I think my team is the best team in football. I told you that since week 4.
Okay, but we're just gonna get straight into Bills Chiefs. Bills, please go into the evil empire and beat them. Please. I don't want to see the Chiefs in the third straight Super Bowl. No. I do not want to see Mahomes in the Super Bowl again. No. Buffalo, please put an end to Kansas City's voodoo magic that they possess.
I think it's safe to say the Chiefs era of Taylor Swift and honeymoons and everybody loving Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, it's over.
Oh, yeah. People hate them now. It's just like what happened with New England. I think people loved the Patriots at first when Brady came on the scene. But
well, not necessarily. They want Brady. They never liked Belichick. They respected Belichick, but nobody ever liked Belichick. People do actually still like Andy Reid. It's kind of the opposite now. People love Andy Reid. They can't stand Mahomes.
Yeah, that's totally the case with me. Mahomes is cocky. He gets he's untouchable because even if you blow on him.
See, I don't buy that.
Okay, I said that wrong. I should not have phrased it like that.
I don't. I think the referees protect Mahomes. They protect Josh Allen. They protect Lamar Jackson. They protect Jalen Hurts. They protect quarterbacks. I don't buy this notion that Mahomes gets special treatment.
He absolutely does.
I don't think he gets special treatment.
100% he does.
I don't buy it. If you want to say Brady got special treatment all those years ago, I never bought that either. I think that the NFL just wants to protect the quarterback when in doubt. That's what I think. And because Mahomes plays quarterback, he gets the benefit of those calls
more often than other quarterbacks.
But he also does a great job of selling those. I mean, the play that they flagged the Texans on when he slid right, it was the wrong call. We all acknowledge it. But they threw the flag because Mahomes was smart enough to bend the rule.
And also because he's Mahomes.
Well, I guarantee you, if Josh Allen did the exact same thing, they're going to throw a flag.
Maybe so. But
so you believe in a conspiracy theory then?
Yeah. Mahomes gets special treatment.
I'm sorry. I don't buy that NFL officiating or NBA officiating or Major League Baseball umpiring. I know everybody thinks that, the fix is in and all that. I used to think that when I was a kid. Let me tell you, it's really hard unless you're Tim Donahue and you're involved in the NBA betting scandal to fix sports games.
I feel like if a defender even throws a gust of wind at Mahomes. They're
But
going to get
it's the case with every quarterback. I mean, as long as they're in the pocket, they're protected.
Anyway, getting to this game, this is the fourth time they've played each other in the playoffs. Mahomes is 3-0 against Allen. This is the third time they've played each other in Arrowhead in the playoffs. The AFC Championship might as well be renamed the Arrowhead Invitational.
You know, the last 15 years in the AFC Championship has either been New England or Kansas City.
Outside of last year when it was in Baltimore.
No, I'm talking about the teams involved.
Oh, yeah.
So, if you're a fan of the Bills, the Dolphins, the Jets, the Chargers, the Broncos, the Raiders, the Browns, the Steelers, the Bengals, the Ravens, the Jaguars, the Texans, the Titans, and the Colts, I feel bad for you over the last decade and a half.
Yeah. But and before New England or Kansas City, it felt like the AFC Championship game was mostly in Pittsburgh.
Well, I mean, for a lot of years, right? It was Roethlisberger, Manning, or Brady, and Flacco occasionally in there.
Yeah.
But the AFC, unlike the NFC, where you've had a mix of your Seattles, your Phillies, your San Franciscos, your Green Bays,
your Atlantas,
your AFC is really like 3 or 4 teams over like a 25-year period.
Yeah, except for when Cincinnati got to the Super Bowl. Oh boy!
And by the way, how'd they do that against Kansas City? They came back on them in the second half.
Yeah. But I want to go with what you were saying before. So if the Bills turn it over one time,
they're going to lose. You can mark it down right here, right now.
So if Josh Allen throws an interception in the first quarter, it's over.
It's over. By the way, they can't even be even in the turnover battle. They have to force a turnover. They have to get more possessions than Kansas City to win this game.
So let me ask you this then. What if after Josh Allen throws that interception, the Bills' defense stops them and they don't get any points out of the
It won't matter because Kansas City will have already had one more possession up on them.
Okay. So if
I don't think you can beat Kansas City by losing the turnover battle because they're just too good. Now, the only exception to that would be like, on a 3rd and 25, if you throw up a Hail Mary or whatever and it's caught at the goal line or it's a punt or at the end of the half if you get a turnover. That's the exception for me. But if it's in the middle of the field, you're driving and you just have a boneheaded play, you cannot give Kansas City any gifts.
Yes, but here's the thing. Kansas City has not been blowing anybody out this season.
And they said the same thing about Houston. And guess what? Watching that game, I know the score was kind of close. It really wasn't that close. Kansas City was toying with them. That game was over for me basically when they ran the kickoff back to the 10-yard line in the opening kickoff. I know Houston came back. I know they made it a game. I get it. But you never felt like Kansas City was actually in trouble of losing that game.
Well, yeah, because they have Mahomes. I get it. And he gets every call. I don't get it with the NFL, but whatever.
You know what I believe? And again, I'm not the biggest Mahomes fan either. He's annoying to play. I get it. But truth be told, and maybe this is why I'm not as angry about Mahomes or all these superstar quarterbacks, because I really believe deep down, if everybody in the world had a franchise quarterback, they wouldn't be wanting about Mahomes. Because they're jealous. It's what it is. It's jealousy.
Maybe so.
If the Browns had a franchise quarterback, I don't think you'd be sitting here saying Mahomes gets every call. Maybe you would, and maybe I'd be wrong.
The Browns having a franchise quarterback. Good God.
I'm just saying, I think it comes down to many people don't think Jalen Hurts is a franchise quarterback. I do. I've seen 2 MVP seasons of a quarterback in my lifetime, and neither of them won the award. Wentz in 17 and Hurts in 22.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Wait, who won the MVP in 2022? I forget. That
Mahomes.
Oh, that's one of the rare times the league MVP has actually won the Super Bowl.
Because Hurts got hurt.
Oh yeah, that's right. Um, but we've completely gone off topic. We were supposed to be previewing this game, but yeah, Buffalo, Josh Allen, he cannot be Superman. Like he's figured out how to use the weapons around him. If he can just utilize the run game with James Cook, get his weapons involved, and keep the Chiefs' offense on the sidelines, Buffalo's in good shape. The problem is when he goes against Mahomes, I don't know what it is, but it feels like Josh Allen just goes over his head, if you know what I mean.
Well, he hasn't done it this year. That's why I'm very interested to see what happens if Buffalo gets behind in this game. I wanted to ask you a question, Mr. Browns fan. Is this the game that the guy the Browns traded to Buffalo finally shows up? Because he's been invisible these playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, it does kind of look like an angel. That's just the lighting in my office. But yeah, I don't know what happened to Amari Cooper because I thought that was a great trade for Buffalo at the time, and they haven't really used him.
I mean, they haven't really needed them. I've gone back to what I started the show with. Buffalo and Philadelphia run very similar offenses. Yes, Philadelphia has A.J. Brown. They have Devontae Smith. They have Dallas Goedert. They have all these weapons. It's a running offense. Yes, Buffalo has, these Shakir and Coleman. And yes, they have Josh Allen, who has an incredible arm. But their offense is for Josh Allen's legs and James Cook's legs.
Yeah. And that's how it's got to be on Sunday.
By the way, Kansas City acquired DeAndre Hopkins at the trade deadline. I didn't even really see him out there.
Yeah. He won't get any special treatment against the Kansas City defense. Yeah.
That sounds like a Ravens fan comment.
Yeah. That does sound like a Ravens fan comment. For sure. But I don't know what more Buffalo has to do because
they have to force a turnover. They have to play clean football, and they cannot get rattled. If they get a 3-and-out to start, and Kansas City goes down and gets a touchdown, they cannot get rattled. They cannot abandon the game plan. They have to do run, short pass. A lot like Romo was saying on Sunday. Get to 3rd and 2, get to 3rd and 3, and then let Josh Allen use his legs. They have to. Buffalo's formula to win is a very small margin. It is control the clock. Don't let Mahomes have the ball. And by the way, don't kick field goals. Go for it on 4th down. If you're past the 50, or even if you're before the 50, if it is 4th and 2 or less, you have to go for it. You have to make it a game of possessions.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Why can't the comment sound like a Browns fan?
Oh God.
Well, because Browns fans have bigger problems. How about that? Josh knows all about that.
Very much so.
All right, Josh. So you already know my thoughts. I think Kansas City's gonna win. Let's see. If you watch when Josh Allen play the Pats, Jets, and fans that can't even look better at Josh Allen or the again. I don't understand this Revs affiliation with you fans. You guys are obsessed with like a fish for you guys think they show favoritism. My Eagles have never gotten favoritism from any official ever. I got screwed out of a Super Bowl, I believe, because of it. So,
yeah. So,
but nonetheless, I think Kansas City's going to win the game. I think it's going to be like 24-21. I do think it's a field goal game. Kansas City's favored by 1.5. I think they cover. What do you think?
God, I'm hoping Buffalo takes down the evil empire. Um, but it's the Arrowhead Invitational. Josh Allen is 0-3 against Mahomes in the playoffs. They're the two-time defending Super Bowl champion. So, unfortunately, I think they're going back for a third year in a row. Ugh.
You get a score prediction?
20 to 24-20.
So we're about the same. So I gave Buffalo one more point than you did, basically.
Yeah.
All right. Well, unfortunately for Jalen Sandvik, it was a rough Saturday night for him. Me and him were going back and forth after the game. I know how brutal it was watching, and I gotta tell you, the NFL is a very brutal business. It's what I told you about the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love going into the year, where sometimes NFL progression is not linear, right? You don't go from NFC Championship game to Super Bowl. You can go from NFC Championship game to out of the playoffs the next year. And I'm not saying that's going to be the case for Detroit, but now with Ben Johnson, excuse me, officially becoming the head coach of the Bears, and with Aaron Glenn probably becoming the head coach of the New York Jets, I think the Detroit Lions. I'm not going to say that they're going to regress back to the old Detroit Lions, but if I'm a Lions fan, I would be very nervous because as much as I've been a fan of Jared Goff and as much as he struggled on Saturday night against the Commanders' defense, it is not great. I am very anxious to see what Detroit does now at offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Which I would have guessed Aaron Glenn was going to go to the New Orleans Saints. I would not have guessed him to be the next head coach for the Jets, considering they just had a defensive head coach and, well, it didn't work. And they still have Aaron Rodgers as their starting quarterback, stupidly. But whatever. Anyway, I don't know what to make of the Lions because Lions fans have felt like, oh, we're on top of the NFL mountain and this is our reign of terror now. I would say no, it's not.
It sort of felt like to me, and we all said this going into the year. I mean, Josh, me and you both had the Lions in the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. We both said this sort of felt like if they were going to do it, this is the year. Like we knew losing Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson was a real possibility, and it's one of the reasons why both came back because they knew it too.
Yeah. And Detroit has a number of free agents this offseason, and I think they're going to lose a lot of them to other teams. So I don't know what to make of the Lions. I really don't.
I think they have a really good roster. I think it's a very talented roster. I love Dan Campbell. You know, I feel about Dan Campbell. But I do think, and by the way, not calling timeout when they had 12 men on the field when Brady was calling it from 5 miles away was egregious. I did not understand that at all. I think it's one of the flaws of having Dan Campbell as the Lions head coach because as great as he is and as emotional as he can get, we know he's not a strategic offensive mind. We know he's not a very strategic defensive mind. Detroit really picked up, a couple years ago when Ben Johnson became their OC. I'm just not sure if the Lions don't get a great offensive coordinator again, could we see a Philadelphia Eagles 2023-esque regression where they're still going to be good, they're probably going to be a playoff team, but they're not the same team.
Yeah, I could see the Lions still getting in as like a wild card team.
Like that's kind of how I feel. I feel like the loss of Ben will be hurt more than the loss of Aaron Glenn because Aaron Glenn was a good defensive coordinator. I never thought Aaron Glenn was a great defensive coordinator. I never thought the Lions had a great defense.
Think about this for a second. The NFC North sent 3 teams to the playoffs.
And none of them won a game. And by the way, all four of them now, in my opinion, they have three geniuses, offensive minds in LaFleur, O'Connell, Ben Johnson as head coaches, and you add Dan Campbell onto that. That is without a doubt the toughest division in football.
Yep. And that is the division the Browns have to go against next season.
Those are the division the Philadelphia Eagles have to go against next year as well.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I don't know what to make of this for the Lions. Obviously, it sucks for them,
It
but
certainly does.
there is a new head man in Chicago, and thank you, God, for Caleb Williams that this happened, because if they did not hire Ben Johnson, the Bears have might as well given up as a franchise. That's the way I look at it.
Here's my thing with this. I think part of the reason why Ben Johnson was so effective in Detroit as their offensive coordinator was because he was able to utilize the play action game because of Sonic and Knuckles, David Montgomery, and Jahmyr Gibbs. He does not have that in Chicago. DeAndre Swift is a nice running back, but he's not David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs.
Oh, he's definitely David Montgomery. I think he's better than Montgomery. I'll put that out there right now. He's not better than Gibbs, but I think he's better than Montgomery. Who's not to say Chicago may not draft another running back as well? To your point, I think one of the reasons why he was able to use that play action so well is because of that powerful offensive line. And I think Ben's a really smart guy. I think this will all be about Caleb Williams and getting him going. Obviously, he doesn't have the pieces on the offensive line. I think he will be able to draft and develop that offensive line the way that Eberflus could not do. The one thing I do think he has going for him is I think he arguably has a more talented quarterback, and I really like the weapons he has, very comparable to Detroit's weapons.
By the way, from what I've heard, it sounds like Dennis Allen, the former Saints head coach, is going to be their new defensive coordinator. I don't know if you
for a defensive coordinator, I actually like that move a lot. He's not a great head coach, but he is a former head coach, and he's a very aggressive defensive coordinator. He will blitz, he will play man coverage, and he will get physical with those receivers.
So we'll see how that goes going against like Jordan Addison and JJ when they face Minnesota. That'll be a very interesting matchup.
The thing is, like, I feel like with Ben here, like, there's going to be no in between. He's either going to be a rock star, a Kevin O'Connell like head coach that you think, oh, we have our guy for the next decade here, or he's going to be Adam Gase or Hugh Jackson.
Yes. Which, by the way, I don't know if you saw this. Kevin O'Connell got a huge extension with the Vikings.
Okay, he did. So, no, I did not see that. By the way, I know this is a little bit off track as well, but this broke right before we got on the air that Josh McDaniels is officially going back to New England as Mike Vrabel's offensive coordinator.
Throwback.
Did I not call it when it happened? I know I wasn't on the air last week, but I texted you and Jalen both and said, yeah, that's going to be a package deal.
So
we shall interesting coaching carousel.
Yeah.
We'll be diving in, I'm sure, a lot of it. You know, we won't have necessarily a game to cover next week. We'll recap the conference championship.
Yeah.
Of course. But we had one college football game left on the docket this year, and the Ohio State Buckeyes, who had 2 losses all year long, including one to Michigan, which still nobody can quite understand. Yet it ended up being, as I predicted at the time, the best thing to happen to that franchise, as Ohio State went on to basically decimate the field in the CFP. And as I've also said, you change the college football playoff format, and Ohio State will win the national championship.
Yep. I'll give credit to Notre Dame for coming back.
Yeah, I thought the game was over at 31-7. So credit to Notre Dame, who they were a good team. I didn't think they were a great team. I thought they got some breaks. I know I wasn't here last week. I thought James Frank would let him off the hook again. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, Josh.
No, yeah, no, I want James Franklin fired. You know that.
Oh,
You, you
I'm sorry. I was listening to you and Jalen last week talking about your disdain for the two head coaches, Ryan Day and James Franklin.
yeah. I mean, Ryan Day after that Michigan game, he rightfully should have been fired, but he turned it around. I
Yeah.
gotta give him credit. But
Ryan Day basically became Mike Budenholzer.
yeah, yeah, essentially. But think about this for a second. What? Why did Notre Dame kick that field goal? Why? Like
Beats me.
that was like I get it. You want to take the points. Generally, I'm on the same page there. No, not in this case. You're going against Ohio State. You're going against Jeremiah Smith, Abuka, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. If you have an opportunity to, get in the end zone, you got to take that chance, not kick a field goal.
By the way, for the record, Ohio State has had some great wide receivers in their history. I'm here to tell you, Jeremiah Smith would be an NFL starting wide receiver on all 32 teams today. And
Not
he's
just
18 years old.
Not just that. If he were to declare for the NFL draft this year, he would be the number one pick.
So I have said in the past, and this is kind of where I'm like, because you know me, I'm all about the offensive coach, I'm all about the quarterback, I'm all about the receivers, I'm all about the weapons. But we're seeing a pivot in the NFL. I talked about it with Philadelphia and Buffalo, where even though they have weapons, and even Kansas City to a certain extent. I mean, they got DeAndre Hopkins at the trade deadline. They don't even really use him either. Where these teams are turning into running football teams. And I don't know if a wide receiver would ever be the number one pick in the draft again. I think this kid might be the exception of the rule.
That's what I've been telling you.
I think Jeremiah Smith, I mean, if there this kid, I have no words for how good he is.
Yeah. Like that throw late to basically seal it.
That was an A+ throw by Will Howard, who I thought was in the bag last night. And I've been saying it since that game against Oregon, the one in the regular season up in Eugene in October. I didn't come away from that game impressed with Will Howard. Every single CFP game he played, I was more and more impressed with Will Howard.
Their toughest game was in the semifinal against Texas, because that was more of a grind it out, drag it out,
and
whatever.
They still won the game by 2 touchdowns. I mean, they won every game by 10 points.
Yeah, which we need to change things up with the playoff. I get it. You want to reward the conference champions, but the conference champions shouldn't just automatically get first round bye.
So here's the problem with the playoff. And there's a lot of thoughts on this, and I get it. I completely understand Joe Klatt's point, and I sort of agree with him, which is like, hey, like the CFP needs to be done by January 1st. The national championship needs to be at the Rose Bowl. Like, this should not be dragged out to Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It should not be on a Monday night when everybody's all footballed out after the divisional round of the playoffs. I totally get that. And I understand the college football probably needs to rearrange their schedule. But I also think now the problem you're getting with the CFP, and I understand it's so much better for the sport overall when we have, because of NIL and the transfer portal, we have 9, 10, 11, 12 teams that you could legitimately feel like maybe deserve to be in that playoff. But now, rivalry weekend, I mean, I get it. Ohio State, Michigan, I know you hate each other. But in the past, it used to be the loser of that game has their hopes and dreams crushed. And now it's for Ohio State. It was, yeah, we lost to Michigan, but honestly, who cares? Because we can go and win the national championship. I don't like that part of it.
Think about this for a second. If we were still in the 14 playoff, Ohio State would not have gotten in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I wouldn't have been mad if we would have stayed at 4, and I'll stick to it. Ohio State deserved to win the national championship because we had a 12-team playoff. I thought it should have been expanded to 8, maybe 6. I think Ohio State was overall the 6th team, though they were obviously the 8th seed, just based off, as you said, the bye weeks. But it's crazy to think about. In this world of NIL and the transfer portal, like we talked about, I don't think college football will ever be the same again.
No, it won't.
My concern with it is, it is still college. Like, it is not meant to be NFL light. The NFL has embraced college football, and we love the NFL draft, and we love to watch the guys in college before they become pros on Sunday. But to me, college football is basically becoming like the NFL's G League. I mean, players are getting paid. You're getting NFL level talent on both sides of the ball at all these premium schools. Like, it is becoming an extension of the National Football League, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I think both can be true.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, even after the NFL ends with the Super Bowl, football is going to continue because we got the UFL.
Yeah, and by the way, that product ain't half bad either. So we know football is taking over America. I don't want college football turning into the NFL on Saturdays. Like, I think college football, there is a distinction. And again, you know this about me, that I'm not the biggest traditionalist in the world. But I just think there is something to college football and the differences between college and the NFL that we're not getting anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you're still getting like the atmospherics that you can't get.
That's it. I mean, the bowl games don't matter anymore. Honestly, who cares? The only bowl games that matter are the ones that are involved in the college football playoff.
Yeah, and it's always going to be the same bowls that are in the college football playoff. You're never going to get like the Pop-Tart Bowl for the college football playoff. That'd be ridiculous.
The question I have is, instead of starting, excuse me, like Labor Day weekend, do you start this thing like 2 weeks earlier? Not give everybody a bye after the conference championship games. Go right into the CFP, and you wrap it up like Clad suggested, January 1st. The Rose Bowl every year is the national championship game. Either that, or, in my opinion, what they honestly should do is get rid of the conference championship games. Let's just, rivalry week is the last week. Let's just see teams 1 through 12.
Yeah. Do I want the Dog Bowl sponsored by dog food? Oh, very funny. Grandides are very funny.
All right. Very well, funny. We got one more topic on the docket tonight. I'm going to stick true to my words. I know the Cavs got boat raced by the Thunder by 40, even though they came back. They went to the 20-point game last week. I told you I didn't really care about the result. I still don't. Unfortunately for the Cavs, I think the chase for Golden State's record of 73-9 with those 2 losses to Indiana and Oklahoma City, probably not going to happen. The Cavs are on pace to probably go 70-12 at this point, as opposed to 74-8. But I'm not going to overreact. Cavs did not have a very good night shooting, and in my opinion, Oklahoma City made every shot that came their way.
Yeah. This upcoming stretch concerns me a little bit. We've got Houston on Wednesday, Philadelphia on Friday, Houston on Saturday. Then you got Detroit on Monday. Miami on Wednesday, Atlanta on Thursday. Atlanta's been a bad matchup for us. Then you got Dallas on Sunday, Boston on Tuesday. That's a tough stretch for the Cavs. I'm concerned.
Here's my thing. The Cavs are still right up there, first, second best team in basketball. So even if it is technically a hard stretch, like it's not like in football where everybody has different schedules. Everybody does play people. It just is the order in which you play people. But if you're a top team like the Cavs, no team should scare you. No stretch should scare you because you should have the expectations that you're going to win every single game.
Yes, but for example, we're 0-2 against the Atlanta Hawks this season. We have historically had a rough time playing in Miami. So playing those two teams on a back-to-back, that scares me as a Cavs fan.
Well, Miami is a mess with the Jimmy Butler situation. So that's the way I look at it. Like, I don't think Miami's scary at all anymore. I think Atlanta's more scary than Miami.
Oh yeah, I forgot the Browns promoted Tommy Reese to the offensive coordinator. But yeah, the Cavs have historically had a tough time in Miami. I don't know what it is. Whether it's been American Airlines Center, American Airlines Arena, Kaseya Center, whatever other names they've had, that arena has had.
Yeah, but recently, like over the past couple of years, the Cavs have won some games down there.
Yeah, but they lost their first game down there. And then that Dallas-Boston stretch, you got a rematch with Minnesota in there. I
get it. It's a hard schedule, but again, at this point, the Cavs have proven they can beat anybody in the week.
Yes. I still think they need to make a trade for like a Cam Thomas or
Cam Johnson. I've heard there's multiple rumors about Cam Johnson out there. I'll be honest with you. I know everybody feels this way, and I get it. They can make an upgrade. Who are you giving up? Like, is anyone going to want to take a Coro? Like, who would they be giving up? Levert?
That's the problem. I've heard the Nets would want Jalen Tyson in a deal, possibly, which...
Now, that I would do, because he doesn't play a lot anyway.
Yeah, but from when he's been on the court, I've liked what I've seen from him.
Yeah, but you know what, Josh? This is my belief in the NBA. If you have a team that's ready to win, like basketball is not like football where you can get a rookie and he comes in and steals the show. Like it takes guys time to develop in the NBA. If I'm ready to win, I want a win now guy over a kid any single day of the week. Like I'm willing to give up talented kids to get win now guys.
Yeah, I understand that. But in terms of the Celtics dismantling the Warriors, I don't know what to make of the Warriors.
Remember what I told you earlier in the year? Golden State's run is not sustainable.
I agreed with you on that. I didn't.
I could have swore you disagreed with me on that.
I thought I agreed with you, but
I could have swore you said no, that this Warriors team was for real. And I said no, they're going to fall off and they may not even make the playoffs.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought I agreed with you. But either way, I don't know what they should do, because I've heard maybe they should make a trade and go get like a Jimmy Butler. But
no, they shouldn't. You know why? Here's my take. Listen, I get it. You want to try to hang on. You want to try to win another championship, but it's over. Like, if I'm the Warriors, I have a really, really hard conversation about moving Steph Curry.
No,
like I think it's that over. Like I wouldn't even. I think. Do you realize the teams that you have to go up against in the West that are younger, faster, quicker than you? Memphis, Oklahoma City, Houston,
Minnesota,
Denver, Minnesota.
Okay, I wouldn't necessarily throw Denver into the mix.
They're way better than Golden State. Golden State doesn't match up with Denver. They have nobody on their roster that can compete with Jokic. Absolutely nobody.
That part I agree with.
So they cannot compete with Oklahoma City. They're too old. They can't run with them. The same thing with Houston. Memphis, if John Morant's healthy, I think Memphis is better than them.
Minnesota?
Denver, I don't think they match up with them at all. So
what about Minnesota?
Minnesota, again, I think Minnesota is young, quick, more explosive. I think that, maybe Golden State could get a game off them, but in a 7-game series, they don't match up.
Sacramento?
They don't match up great against Sacramento, but Steph could probably give them competitive in a series. I'm not even sure they're better than Dallas. So we're talking they're there with the Lakers, the Clippers, the Suns, and I don't think Jimmy Butler makes that big of a difference. I like Jimmy Butler, but for that team specifically, they need to get younger and they need to get bigger. They don't need Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I agree with you. They need a big, but who are you going to get? That's the problem.
And that's why I'm saying this team is in purgatory. They're pretty much screwed. I mean, they have an all-time great player who is still, top 5, top 6 in the league.
Yeah.
But he has no help.
No.
And it's the same thing with LeBron in LA, by the way. It's the exact same setup. One's a forward, one's a guard. That's the difference.
I would say in terms of that conversation, the Warriors are in a better position than the Lakers are.
Well, I disagree because at least with the Lakers, I get AD too. If LeBron and AD are healthy, they're better than Golden State.
So here's the reason why I would say the Warriors are in a better position. Because LeBron needs the ball in his hands, which means you have to surround him with veteran players. You can't go young. Whereas with Golden State, Steph doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands, so you can get younger and faster and quicker to match up with these teams like Memphis.
Well,
Minnesota.
they really can't, though, because both teams are under the guard in terms of the cap.
That part is true, but we've seen the Warriors have been able to make it work.
They haven't been able to make it work for 4 years. What did I tell you about Golden State? That when they won that title in 2022, they should have blew it up right then and there. And that should have been it. Move off Steph, move off Kerr, move off Clay. It should have been the last dance. It should have been what the Bulls did in 98. That's it. Goodbye.
And yet they didn't.
And now they're stuck. And by the way, Klay Thompson, they should have moved off him last year. He's not making a real difference in Dallas like I predicted. He's a nice player. He can still make shots. He's not a difference maker anymore.
That's partially because Klay and Kyrie have not been able to stay healthy.
Well, who wouldn't have guessed that? I mean, that's their history. By the way, Curry also has a history of injuries.
That part is true, yes.
And Draymond, as much as I love him, and he at this point only averages 4 points a game, and he's on a bad team. I could tolerate Draymond if he's on a 73-win team. Well, now he's on a 38 or 40-win team.
This is going to sound crazy. Actually, no, it wouldn't. No, the Cavs would never do that. Never mind.
Oh, go get him. I've been asking for it. That's the one guy I would say if you can go get, absolutely go get Draymond.
You'd have to give up Evan Mobley or something.
There's no way. There's no way. Would they take a Tyson and an Okoro, maybe LeVert, young wing guys, and then Tyson. The problem is we don't have the big.
Yeah, I agree with you there. My bigger problem with the Cavs is the wings.
See, I don't think the Cavs have a problem. I remember what I told you when they got off to this hot start. They're going to lose 5 games this year, and they're going to lose about 3 games by 50 points, the way Boston did during their championship run. And everybody's going to flip out. Why did Indiana match up well against Boston, even though they lost 4 of those 5 games in the ECF last year? Because Indiana can shoot. That's why they beat the Cavs, because they can shoot. Why can Atlanta match up well against the Cavs? Because they can shoot. They just don't do it as consistently as the Cavs, though they outdone it on some nights. That's the difference between the Celtics last year, the Cavs this year, in my opinion, are at that same level versus an Orlando or an Indiana or a Milwaukee or even a Dallas team that made the finals. Was they have good players. They can't shoot as well as us. That's the difference. Every team in the NBA plays the same style now. Watch an NBA game. You know what it is? One dribble, shoot a free, and pray it goes in.
Okay, so on that note, did you hear that? Like, we already have 2 spots filled for the dunk contest, and it's 2 rookies. I think it's Castle for the Spurs and some guy from the
You're
Bulls.
kidding me. You're actually kidding me. This is a real thing. I didn't hear about this.
Yeah.
Well, what's this about bringing back the dunk contest? I thought Zion Williamson was going to come in and save this damn thing.
Nope. As of right now, I haven't heard that. It's Stephon Castle for the Spurs, and I forget who the other guy is.
Waste of time, waste of money. This is a joke.
I know. It's rookies. Hold on, let me make sure I'm getting Matas Buzelis. Who?
No sports show has even remotely talked about this. I'm telling you that right now. I listen to all the sports shows all day long while I'm working my job. I've never heard this. Period.
First Take was talking about it this morning.
Okay, well I missed that part of it probably because I was in a meeting, but I didn't hear any of this.
Yes. It is awful. As of right now, I haven't heard anything about Steph and Sabrina Ionescu doing another 3-point contest. I hope that happens. I want it to be Steph and Sabrina Ionescu against Klay Thompson and Caitlin Clark.
That would be good. Josh, as football season is winding down, we have a lot of NBA deep dive conversations, I think, to get into. I'm not necessarily talking about teams and on the court. I think you know what I'm talking about. I think the NBA has some issues they need to fix. I think we have some very interesting February and March conversations to have.
I agree with you. Once they get this media rights deal figured out, Vegas and Seattle are coming into the league.
Oh, that's going to be something. All right, fellas. Well, I'll be honest with you. We didn't plan on having the longest show tonight because, as you guys can tell, and I apologize for my coughing, trying to get better day by day. I didn't really feel like I could do this show with a ton of topics tonight. So we really tried to stay, football and basketball centric. Next week, oh boy, the Royal Rumble is here. The MLB Hall of Fame announcements will be completed.
That's already been announced. It's going to be Ichiro Suzuki, CC Sabathia, Billy Wagner.
Interesting. All right. Well, so we'll dive into all of that. The Super Bowl matchups will be here. It's going to be a great show.
Yes, it will.
All right. Well, that's it for me, Brandon Lewis, host of Brandon's World, for Josh Ungar the Max. This has been episode 63 of Championship Rings, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Bye-bye.